Well, I think it's super cool to be inducted into the East High Hall of Fame, just because all the people that are been inducted to the Hall of Fame are just mentors or people I've always looked up to all my life. Although it's kind of different for me. I don't know that I'm truly the guy to be inducted to the Hall of Fame. I think my whole family, going back to my grandfather who graduated in 1931 to my dad being inducted or graduating in 59, is that the whole family has contributed to East High. So I feel like I'm really accepting this honor on behalf of my whole family. So my dad graduated in 1959, and so he only had to go to school half days because he had so many credits to graduate. And so he and my grandfather had a Ford tractor, and he used to dig basements in the afternoon when he was going to school, and so that's how our business got its start. My grandfather graduated in 1931, and my grandmother graduated in 1933, and so they met at East High School, and all my aunts and uncles went to East High, and all my cousins went to East High School. So it's really, my whole family has gone to East High School, and so just East Side and East High School has shaped my whole family's life from start to finish. So there's actually a book called Grit, and it's about people who are either really smart and not as smart, and then there's people who work hard and don't work quite as hard. So obviously if you're really smart and you work hard, you're going to be pretty successful. But there's also, if you're not very smart and you don't work very hard, you're probably not going to be as successful. But then there's that group in between that either you're really smart and don't work hard, or you're not as smart but you work really hard. That's what they call grit. And I feel like I fit in that box where I wasn't quite as smart as everybody else, but I worked really, really hard. And I know that's made me successful. And it's just been the way I've always grown up and worked. Like, to be honest with you, I wasn't the smartest kid at East High School, but I was in graphic design with Mr. Bach, and I did all the graphic drafting classes with Mr. Muller, and wood shop with Mr. Winiger, and then I was in all the bands with Mr. Cadwallader, and then also my wrestling coach, Coach Rourke. I was at school at 7 a.m. and I didn't get home till 6:30 at night. So I worked really, really hard. Kind of a funny thing was, during the doing pictures of the yearbook, I actually, through all that, I actually made it in the top 15% of the class. And so, 450 people in our graduating class or so, top 15%. Well, I probably was like number 59 or 60. I was the last of that, top of that 15%. But I remember a kid looking at me and saying, "Gee, I didn't think you belonged in the top 15%. You weren't that smart." And I was like, "Yeah, but I worked hard to get here." Giving back to the community and giving back to East High School, when you get out of school, that's probably not the first thing on your mind. You're ready to start your career and come out of that. But then you look back on how it shaped you and mentored you and grew you as an individual. Probably one of my favorite things, when I was a wrestler, and I lettered in wrestling and I lettered in band, but honestly, I wasn't the best wrestler. I was probably just an average wrestler. And but I remember showing up every day and going to practice with Coach Rourke, and he'd always have us working out. And it's funny, I think I got to wrestle varsity one time, and I pinned a kid, and that gave me just enough points to get a letter for wrestling. And so I was so proud that I lettered in wrestling, but to be honest with you, I was just an average wrestler. But I showed up every day and I worked hard, and it paid off. Same thing when I was in band. Worked hard, marching band, concert band, pep band, jazz band, and just worked really, really hard at those. And working hard, I think, is really one of the keys to being successful, is working hard and getting through that. I can remember going back to the day, and also going back to my wrestling days. My dad wrestled at East High School as well in the late 50s, and he was actually, one of his teammates was Coach Lutz. Tom Lutz was a classmate of my dad's, and then Coach Lutz was also the wrestling coach when I was a freshman. And my dad always said, I was just probably an average wrestler, but my dad would always say, "Jaybird, what does it say on the top of East High School there in the cafeteria?" It says, "A winner never quits and a quitter never wins." And when you're getting beat down and you weren't amongst that, you didn't understand that. But Dad would always say, you can't quit. You're not going to win if you quit. And so all through my 4 years of wrestling, all through my 4 years of high school, that was just always ingrained in me, that a winner never quits and a quitter never wins. And I continue to say that today. That's kind of a phrase. I know it's a Vince Lombardi quote, and but I feel for most of my life, I always thought that's an East High quote, and that's really what's helped form me and shape me to never give up and to never quit.
This induction into the East High Hall of Fame, it's just very humbling. It's a totally unexpected, wonderful honor. I don't know that I was as deserving as some of the others of our many deserving alumni, but it's certainly an honor to be included with this Hall of Fame group. And matter of fact, it's the honor of a lifetime to me. I think the values and the education I got from my East High days and from my parents of hard work and responsibility and treating others, well and fairly, kind of the golden rule. Like other East High grads, I've been very blessed with going to East High and having a great family, parents, wife, 3 sons, and many good friends. I was also, lucky to work for some very good people and companies, especially Jim County and Heritage Communications. And then I finished my career at FC Stone as the CFO, and with my boss, the president, we set up an employee stock plan. And then several years later, after the company was doing pretty well, we had a public offering with an IPO and went public, and everybody benefited. It was good to see all the employees do so well with it. So my East High days have really benefited me in my life. Some of my fondest memories from East High is I just had excellent teachers. We had good friends that, both ones I were in class with, and especially my teammates on the basketball and golf teams that I played on. And 57 years later, we still get together with a lot of those good friends. And also I enjoyed watching our football team play on Friday nights. And I especially enjoyed my senior year when our football team beat Roosevelt 28-0. My message to East High and East High alumni is we've had a very successful capital campaign led by Steve Taylor and Tim Pearson. And thanks to all our supportive alumni that made this successful, and also some local business and organizations. And I would say going forward, as any of you alumni do well, go ahead and pay it forward to our East High Foundation for the students, for their scholarships and facilities that East High has. So hopefully they'll have the same opportunities we had. If I was to go back and talk to my 18-year-old self, I had a pretty good foundation coming from East, but I would encourage you to be involved in more charities and volunteer earlier in life than later. You'll meet some great people and you'll do a lot of good.
Well, I'm very excited to be considered for induction into the East High Hall of Fame because I'm very proud of my background at East High. I never failed to mention that I went to East High when I'm involved in activities here in Des Moines. And I tell people most of the time, I actually am a 3rd generation East High graduate. My grandparents graduated from East High. My parents, both of them graduated from East High, and obviously I graduated from East High. Well, I'm very proud of that tradition and the service humanity motto of East High School. And my family has a long, involvement tradition on the east side of Des Moines. My father ran a very successful business on the east side for many years. And we've just stayed, and both my grandparents lived on the east side of Des Moines, so we've just stayed involved with East Des Moines activities. The Lee Township Against the World, the Friday night at the fair. We've been involved in those activities for a long, long time. So East High, I guess, got me started out on the right foot, if you want to call it that. I was hopefully inspired to fairly high academic activities, and East High got me started. I took math and science classes, mostly at East, and I knew that I needed to have good education, good grades to move ahead in other fields. And the East High got me started there. And again, I was very pleased with my education at East High, and it allowed me to get into the college that I wanted to go to. Again, it's just a very good school that I was very happy to graduate from. What I remember about East High is, first of all, there was a group of about 10 or 12 of us that were friends as a group rather than individuals. We were all doing things together. We would go to sports events. We would go to parties. We went sledding. And I remember one story, I have no idea why, but we ran a paper drive. And we collected all these newspapers and stored them. And I don't know what we were raising money for, but it was pretty fun to stack up all these papers and go pick them up. And that was with this group of friends that I was with all through high school. So making good friends and continuing those friendships for many years was a big thing to me. The other thing I remember about East High is I thought you need to be involved in activities if you're going to be successful, not only at high school, but where you go. And I played a couple sports. I played basketball and tennis. How this happened, I have no idea, but I got involved in a lead role in the school play senior year called One Wild Night. And I thought, what am I doing in a school play? But I remember the drama teacher was Mrs. Whitford, and she got me to do it, and it turned out to be great fun, and I made some additional friends that way. Also, I was involved in a school paper, and so it was just get involved in activities is what I found, and because you meet new people, new friends, and it gives you a lead when you're going on in school in other areas. East High School needs help from its alumni foundation for many activities that we've discussed at other times. And I felt very strongly from the day I came back to Des Moines in 1980 after being away about 15 years. And I, from the very beginning, felt very strongly that we needed to do something to keep East High up with the suburban schools. And I talked about it all the time, but quite frankly, for a long time, didn't do anything about it. Then in 2019, which is just 4 or 5 years ago, I got involved in this campaign to raise money to improve the facilities at East High and try to level the playing field between East and the suburban schools. That was a big project. We were very successful, raising $4 million, as most of you know. And that's how I got back involved with the East High School and the foundation. I have contributed significantly financially to the campaign. The last one was 20 years ago in, I think, 2003, and then the more recent one. And I've endowed a scholarship at East High. So I try to give back to East because I'm very fond of East. I'm very proud of East. And as I said earlier on, I tell anybody I'm an East High grad and I'm proud of it. Well, if I had an 18-year-old son in high school, I have a 17-year-old grandson in high school. That's how the years have passed. But I would tell him, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, get involved. If you just come to school for your academic classes, you miss out on a lot of fun and a lot of opportunities. So I would tell them to get involved with sports, with drama, with music. All of these things are available at East High, and we just need to get more kids to participate in those activities. And then when you're finished with East, give back, because East needs it, and you'll be proud you did it.
When I look back on how many years I've been covering the Scarlet celebration and doing the Hall of Fame videos, it's been about 30 years. So it's an honor, and thank you very much. I'd like to thank Gail Baker, for the nomination, and a special thanks to my wife Julie West. It was funny because Kathy Kaler called me, and I was on a photo shoot. My phone started vibrating, and I looked down, and I saw it was Kathy Kaler, and I was I couldn't answer. I listened to her voicemail later, and she said, "Hi Brent, this is Kathy Kaler from the East High Alumni Association, and I just wanted to let you know that you are a Hall of Fame inductee this year, and I will be sending out more information." I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe it. Later on, I looked at the transcript that my phone had come up with. "Hi Brian, this is Kathy Taylor with East Tile on my association, and I wanted to let you know that you have been nominated to be a Hall of Fame and Sexy for this year. So I will send you a letter to give you more of the details, but you kind of know the weather. You find this transcript useful or not useful?" And I found it very useful. I'm not an East High grad. I was born and raised in Clarion, Iowa, and graduated from Clarion Community High School. I'm a Clarion cowboy. I graduated in '76, and our colors are red and black. I became an honorary East High class of '76 member through adoption from members of the class of '76. So I was going to all of these events with Julie. A lot of times they'd have their meetings at the hilltop. I guess I went enough that some of the people in the group started asking me, it's like, are you an East High grad? Well, before I could say no, a couple of friends jumped in and said, oh yeah, don't you remember he sat in the back of Mr. Johnson's science class with us? He sat in the back with me and Steve, and then another classmate jumped in and said, oh yeah, he used to go with me out to the parking lot during lunch at East High. I didn't know what that meant until later on, that what going out to the parking lot at lunch meant. But anyway, they evidently said it enough that these other people believed it. So I have adoption papers for the class of 76, which basically says my phone prefix has to begin with 26. My zip code has to end in 17. I have a reserved seat at the Bud Tent on the first Friday of the state fair. And also I have free legal representation if I decide to, take care of somebody that maligns the East Side. My fondest memory obviously is from Clarion and Clarion High School. My photography career probably got started in Clarion. I've got great memories of, I played all sports. I had great teachers. I had great, mentors at the time, and my love was art. Dick Simpson was an instructor in Clarion, and he showed me how to process film, how to develop film. So I became a yearbook photographer in 1975 and took a ton of photos. And then in 1976, my graduating year of high school, I was the head photographer for the yearbook. Probably tell my 18-year-old self, it takes work. I mean, it's always going to take work. Nothing comes easy. I mean, if you're, unless you're extremely lucky, nothing comes easy, and it takes work. And if it's not fun, and if it's not working out and things aren't going your way, then go in a different direction. Find something else to do. That maybe something out there is telling you this isn't what you should be doing in life. There's the saying that bad things keep happening to me. Well, sometimes you need to change that around and say bad things are happening for me. That they're happening for me to make me move to, in another direction for what I want to have as a career. And, the other saying is, if you want a lot of rainbows in life and everything nice, you're going to have to put up with a lot of rain. I think I heard those two things on Ted Lasso. My advice to the East High alumni is, you got to keep giving. Again, it goes back to what was said with the Hall of Famers this year and past years. It takes work, and it takes giving, and the work should never end, the giving should never end. The capital campaign, I think, did a great job. I think it can do more. The school needs to be competitive educationally and even athletically, but that doesn't happen unless people give back and give their time and their money to East High to help them grow. And again, in the educational system, for scholarships and for athletics, we could easily be competitive with the other metro schools, but it's going to take, again, can't say the word enough, giving of your time and funds.